When I first started working in radio, I began as a radio producer. And basically, what a radio producer does is think about ideas and story concepts they want to put together for, in my case, a radio show. So I've had the producer role I've worn that role in many instances. I used to produce a show where I really focused on youth issues. So I focused on, I wanted to tell the story about young people and drug use. So what I wanted to do was be able to collect stories from young people who had either tried drugs or had abstained from drugs. And so I felt that it was just really important to have honest conversations about that. That's one example. Another series of stories that I helped produce and conceptualize was the story of housing in Chicago. And so that doesn't sound like a very interesting subject, and it wasn't for me originally, but I had to find a way to make it interesting. And one of the ways that it became interesting is that I came to know what the issues were in housing in Chicago. And that's some of the issues were that people were being displaced from communities because they couldn't afford to live in their own communities anymore, or that people who had traditionally lived in public housing couldn't afford or couldn't live in their homes anymore because they were going to be demolished. And so my challenge was to take all of these ideas and stories and turn them into radio. Another role that I had was just being a radio announcer and putting together great radio shows. I had a lot of fun when I used to have a hip-hop show. And with this hip-hop show, I used to bring on MCs and DJs and just talk about music and try to, I think that people think about hip-hop in a very negative way sometimes, but I think that for people who are involved in hip-hop culture, they know that it's a really celebratory culture and that really tries talking about really important issues. So that was a really fun time for me. As manager, really it's focusing on big picture ideas. It's really thinking about how does your radio station or media entity function as a business? What type of programming as a whole are you going to put out there that people are going to be really interested in and want to listen to and want to be a part of? And then how do you make money out of that? In addition to how do you create something that's really important and valued in the community? And so that's part of what being a manager is, in addition to supervising staff and also monitoring their own professional growth. And so for anybody who's interested in media or radio, there's a lot of different roles that you can have. Really, I think it's of the best interest to whoever is interested in it, to young women and girls, to have internship experiences, to talk to people who are in the business, and to what I used to always do whenever I used to think that I was going to be a radio announcer was listen to the radio and mimic some of the on-air personalities. And as I said earlier, just put together my own radio shows.